Okay, guys, so introduction to literal equations and then some review on super basic equations, because literal equations for some reason get everybody all up in arms and upset because there's extra variables, but I'm here to show you they're exactly the same. So again, as I've said 100 times, as long as your organization is strong and you're going slow and paying attention and asking yourself the questions or hearing my voice in your head when you go to work them, you've totally got this. Okay, so the first four, super basic one-step equations. But what we're discussing is we're looking for the variable we're solving for. So we're solving for r. We're discussing what's attached to it and by what operation. So this is 14 times r. And the inverse of multiplication, so inverse, which is the opposite of multiplication, is division. We know the inverse of addition is subtraction. And then, so vice versa, the inverse of division is multiplication, and the inverse of subtraction is addition. So again, just a pretty upward review, just to remember. It's one of those things that you should know, and if I ask you, you know, but when you start staring at problems, all of a sudden our brains shut down. So 14 times r, and the inverse of multiplication is division, so we're going to divide both sides excuse me, by 14 to get it off that r, because that's going to give me one r on this side. And then a negative 196 divided by 14, that's a negative divided by a positive, so we are going to have a negative. It's going to be a negative 14. So r equals a negative 14. Super simple. So same thing. 4 times p, the inverse of times is 4. The only variable is p, so we are going to, the inverse of times is divide by 4 on both sides. So it's going to be p equals, we have a negative and a positive, so that's going to give me a negative 6 as our answer for that one. Just keep going. You can fast forward if you need. Negative 4 times 7 means we're going to divide by negative 4 again. Negative 4. Negative and a negative, so that's negative divided by a negative, is going to give me a positive. So that's going to be a positive 10 equals x. Now, these would be great calculator inactive equations at this point. And last but not least, negative 7 times n means the inverse is division again. So it's going to be 3 equals n. And we're done. So super, super easy, right? Okay. That's only one variable. Literal equations. This is it. So your first step, identify what to solve for. So, and what I mean by that is, again, as I've told you, we get to doing these easy math problems like, oh, we totally got this. It's done, and you just run, and you don't think about what you're doing. But in these, there's going to be multiple variables, and they are going to get a little harder than this. But what are you solving for? Instead of like shutting down because there's two variables, in this case, I want a by itself. Just like the ones before where I wanted x by itself. But I had numbers, so I could simplify down to a single number output. When there are two variables, it will not be a number alone output. The letters don't just go away. You're just reordering this equation where it's going to say a equals instead of u equals. So to get a by itself, just like we got x by itself up here, that's negative 4 times x, we divided by negative 4. This is 9 times a, so the inverse of multiplication is division, so we're going to divide both sides by 9. So that's going to be u over 9 equals a. And that looks crazy, but the question is a by itself? Yeah, so you just solved for a with two variables. So again, it's not going to ever give you an output of just a single number because there's two variables and letters can't just disappear. So over here, I'm solving for x. So I know I want this guy by itself. The negative 2 is what's attached, is attached by multiplication. And so the inverse of multiplication is division. So I have z divided by a negative 2 equals x. My goal was to get x by itself, and in this case, x is by itself. So both of these are done. So super basic literal equations. You just did literal equations, but for the very first time, I believe. Unless you had an awesome teacher before me that got you started. Because again, this is one of those things that you guys panic and freak out because there's extra letters, but you just saw how easy it is and how it's exactly the same. All right, so another really basic just review before I end this video, before I start the second one of solving one-step equations. So this is x divided by 18. So this is x divided by 18. And we said the inverse of division is multiplication. So we're going to multiply this side by 18, and we're going to multiply this side by 18. That's going to make these 18s go away. And so I have x equals 11 times 18. And that's going to give me 198. And you're done. So again, k divided by 20. So the inverse of division is multiplication. So we're going to multiply this side by 20 and this side by 20. And if you notice, the variables are on opposite sides, but it doesn't matter. So just stick to the rules you know. So division, the inverse is multiplication. So those 20s cross each other out, and end up with k equals 20 times a negative 7 is going to be a negative 140. And you are done, guys. So super basic one-step equations, an introduction to a very simple literal equation, and you are rocking it. Good luck. See you next video.